live. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Cyber meet you. Maybe in the future it will be like, this is the only way to meet, but where we don't talk, but we only connect through our headsets.
You froze up on me for a second.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You froze up for a second though.
Oh, it should be fine. Anyways, how are you?
I'm great. Just finished recording an episode for my podcast, the Lisaann Experience. You know what is doing a podcast? Your whole life is spent trying to get ahead and have like a bunch of episodes in the can. And then you have a bunch of episodes in the can. You get this like free feeling of like, oh, you know, I'm all good. And then you burn through them so quickly. And then you're living on the edge again. You are back to like, okay, I've got to do a podcast today to release today.
Yeah, exactly. They go quick. They go very quick. And if you don't keep pumping them out, people get pissed off.
It's just like putting money in the bank. You know, you can put money in the bank, but if you just start taking it out, not putting any back in, then you have no money. Podcasting is very similar.
Now, with your podcast, do you do it with a guest or you do it by yourself?
So I do 2 podcasts. Both are normally with a guest, unless I feel like I am full of words and want to do a solo dolo, which I do once in a while when I truly need to express myself. The Lisaann Experience is my podcast where I try to bring on different authors and guests of all different walks of life, this curiosity conversation, things that I get to do and read and learn about. And then Dudes Do Better just started last summer by having a moment where I out loud said the words, dudes, do better. And then, of course, I had to go to GoDaddy and the domain was available. And I went to social media and all the social media was available. So I'm like, now that I have all of these addresses, I now have to make this something. And now Dudes Do Better has merch, t-shirts. You can get on my store at shoplisaann.com. But Dudes Do Better is just about the levels of creep factor that makes you realize when you're me, and you're a funnel for, I'll give you an example. I have a bookstore. It's called Shop Lisaann. I didn't think when I got the name Shop Lisaann, the dudes would actually think that's where they shop Lisaann. But every day I have to sift through a couple thousand emails to get to the one person that's like, hey, I ordered a paperback, but I got a hard copy instead. Can you send me the paperback? And I'm like, thank you, a customer email that I can actually do something about. This is fantastic. But I've got to sift through all of that because dudes need to do better and realize they can't just email a girl for a date.
Yeah. So we'll get into that. Well, a side note real quick. I love talking to other podcasters because as well as I do, when you talk to someone that's not a podcaster, there's like a 50-50 chance that they're going to be a dry biscuit and you're like trying to pull stuff out and keep the conversation going. So I love talking to someone like you that's, animated, great personality, great energy. So side note for anyone
speaks in clips. So, you can edit some clips and the person didn't give a one-word answer and you're going to be trying to figure out something else to say. When you don't get a great interview, it's really hard to pull social media clips.
It's hard.
But when you have a good speaker, like I interviewed Chris Hansen for the Lisaann Experience, and I swear he spoke in exactly like 2-minute and 30-second segments. And each time he did it, I was like, these clips are going to be so amazing. Like, how am I going to choose?
Shout out to Chris Hansen. Yeah, I It's interesting when you talk to someone, mainly with my podcast, because I talk to a lot of scientists and doctors and stuff. A lot of these people, they're one-word answers. It's rough. Sometimes it's rough. You got to pull it out of them, and then after you talk to them for a little while, then finally, then they start opening up. And especially when you're doing it over, Zoom or something like we're doing it over Riverside. But if you're doing it over the internet and you're not in person, it's really hard to get it out of them, especially those specific types of people. So.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful.
That's not their forte,
to be talking
right?
to you.
That's not their forte.
Yeah, they're like fucking doing numbers, pushing their glasses in. Sorry, guys. I really love all my scientists and doctor buddies. But yeah, sometimes it is hard to get great sound clips. So dudes do better. Let's just start with that. Why do dudes need to do better? And what do dudes do that's not good that needs to be better?
Well, I'll give you an example. We are free to swear and say things on this show, correct?
Yeah,
right?
our sponsors are cool. Yeah.
Okay, great. Example, I post a photo on social media. I'm always trying to keep the timelines exciting, nice photos where I'm dressed. I don't share adult content on Twitter. And there usually is a motivational quote. I'm always trying to inspire. And it's a photo of me carrying flowers from the flower market. I'm wearing a sweater, a hat, gloves that are fingerless. But what I'm trying to tell you is, like, I have so much clothes on that all you can really see is my face and the fingertips from my gloves. And I get a response in all caps that says, I want to be balls deep. That is definitely some dude that needs to do better. That is
Definitely
unnecessary banter that I am flooded with. And the dudes do better thing is, there's a lot of confusion with adult stars. And my best friend will say it to me like this, and it makes me laugh every time. She's like, well, these guys never saw you say no. So of course they're going to think you're always down. But there's this confusion because of the amount of man hours of dudes that watch too much content and form a relationship with their favorite porn star. It's not the same with an actress, an athlete, any other celebrity. It's with us. There's a dopamine release that they feel. There's a connection that they feel. There's a fake relationship that they build. And then by the thousands, they come at you every day thinking that they deserve an opportunity. Like they're entitled to an opportunity. And if you per se say no to them, they're floored and start reaching out to you in the sense of like, well, you're a whore. You fucked strangers on camera, like you do this for a living for money, I'll give you money. And it's like, obviously you don't get it. Like, you don't get that we're tested, there's consent, it's a choice to do a scene with somebody. You also don't get that it's entertainment. It's not a personal thing. Like just because you bought a movie, you're not getting layaway on my vagina. You know what I'm saying? Like you watched a movie. Yeah. Well, there are people that sign up to OnlyFans. So that's, if you think about
I guess that's
OnlyFans, is people paying for content. So there's just this confusion. So when the dudes do better that circles around me, obviously, is the amount of men a day that think that they deserve an opportunity to be alone with me. And it's jarring because I think it's absurd. I'd never reach out to somebody that I saw on my screen, whether it's my phone, my computer, my TV, and be like, I deserve to go to lunch with you today. Or if I post a photo in Central Park, like dudes will be like, oh, I went looking for you in the park today. I didn't find you. Like I have to post every photo in past tense. Like I don't post anything live. I won't do a story live. I'll shoot the story, download it to my phone, and then post it later. But the stalkability and the fact that it's not just stalking, it's that they actually have a point of contention that they've seen you do it so many times. Why wouldn't you do it with them? Those are the dudes that kind of need to do better. And they also need to form a relationship with a girl that wants to be with them instead of a girl that wants to get a restraining order for them.
All right. Well, yeah, don't hold back,
Are
Lisa.
you landing today on my top 10 list of people who might murder me? There's always an ongoing list for me, and it's like fans that I've like made outrageously irate with me, and they're sending tons of emails and messages a day, and like if I block them, they set up new accounts. I always shuffle this list and pass it through my friends. Like if I'm murdered, like in, these are the top 10 people that you need to search out on social media and via email.
But isn't it like the type of people that actually do that, right? Like you're not getting Chris Hemsworth that's like blasting you. It's typically how do I say it in a nice way? It's not the most optimal males that are reaching out, right?
I would say that if the FBI wanted to find all the incels in the world, they could easily come to my profiles. I would share all of my logins because they are all coming to me on the regular. It's a lot of different types of people. When you go out to events, you meet a nice range of people. You meet the casual viewer that just wants to meet you and have a conversation, or they're curious about something, or the couple that's curious about something. So there are a lot of normal watchers that are just great people, but they're also not the ones that tweet in all caps, I want to be balls deep.
But who actually, but honestly though, like someone that actually wants to get that, like if you have an objective and you want to generate a specific type of result, right? And in this case, guy gets girl, sleeps with the girl, whatever, right? That's like the objective. And then you want to, if you look at it from like a military tactical standpoint, it's like, I want her, I need to get her, whatever I need to say or do, whether it's deception, manipulation, whatever it is to get her in bed, like I'm going to do it, right? But no guy that actually has a real plan, that actually like truly believes that this is going to work, is going to tweet out something so bizarre and actually think it's going to work. I think they're just looking for you to respond because maybe, like you said, they're obsessed. They've seen you a million times. They probably watch you 4 times a day. They just want a response. If Lisaann, oh my God, if she knows that I exist and I breathe, like I guarantee you, well, you probably have better experience than this with me. But if you respond to them, they'll probably be like, "Oh, sorry, yeah, I just wanted to get a response out of you." I've heard that from a lot of famous people that I've talked to. That I'll have people, they'll say, "Oh, go fuck yourself, like you're a cocksucker," all this stuff, and they'll say whatever they want. But then when someone reaches out, like, "Hey, man, you know, I appreciate you saying that, but I just want to let you know that that's not true." And then 9 times out of 10, they're like, "Oh, dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I just wanted to get a reaction. Like, I didn't even think that you would respond." I've heard that a lot from famous people.
There is some of that. That's definitely more in the standard celebrity category. But with us,
Yeah,
it's very different. It's very intimate and it's very personal. And
that's
most
true.
of the time, they will come back and argue with you
Oh
that
God.
they'll tell me, like, well, you have sex with random people on camera. Why wouldn't you do it with me? Like, they actually do have
Wow.
backup points that they would like to debate to try to slide into my life.
Mm.
And,
But
so
what's the end
there's a
result?
mix.
What's the end result? Like, do you think you're going to be like, "Okay, yeah, you're right. Let's have sex"?
So I get all these marriage proposals every day, right? So
Oh,
get all these
jeez.
marriage proposals. They come in through my bookstore. They come in through my emails. They come in through my mailbag for my podcast. And like,
You got to be
we
careful
have
with the
this.
book signings. You got to be careful. And like,
Oh, I
the
bring
more I
armed
think about
guards
it,
with me. I have
yeah,
armed
you
guards
have
with me.
to.
I don't leave home without an armed guard. I
You
don't
have to.
play. Okay. I'm not playing and I bring multiple people with me, but there is one person there that is always armed and is ready because that's how I have to live. That's a real thing
That's so
because of this
bizarre.
level of attraction. But, we sometimes want to prank people back and like say yes. Usually I'll write, "I cannot accept your marriage proposal today because I already turned down everybody and it wouldn't be fair." But we do want to have some sort of like a punk situation where we're like, "Yeah, where do you live? We're going to show up right now." It would be the greatest like video series ever. Like, "What are you going to do now?" "Okay, great. We're getting married." Okay.
Wow. Guys are funny, man. People in
Dudes
general
need
are
to do
funny.
better. Okay. Dudes need to do better. And
I
also,
tell,
we've allowed,
yeah.
like, look, the internet 2020 forced so many people to spend more hours than ever without being monitored through their offices, their work computers, whatever, to fall down this rabbit hole of this isolation mixed with interaction. And that
Mm,
became very confusing for people. And I think what you've seen, even if you look under sports broadcasters sideline, you read the threads because I'm a big thread reader. I like to know where everybody's head's at. And it's crazy how we've allowed men to just sexualize every single woman. Here we are living
mm.
in a what we're supposed to be believing is a more inclusive world, but it is a more inclusive world with more opinions and more people that can hide behind a keyboard and sexualize things and make them inappropriate, even when that was never near of what the conversation should have been. So it's the wild, wild west again because people are spending way too much time online and feeling that they are anonymous behind their keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, so you're in New York, so you're walking around, and obviously you probably have armed guards with you, like you said. But as you're walking around, you see people, maybe someone notices you, and you've been in the industry for a long time, so you probably have gotten accustomed to this. But like, how does it feel? Like, how do you view? For I guess it could be a girl, but like a guy that talks to you and looks at you, but that they've seen your videos, and is there like, what's the I'm trying to understand like the psychological component of how you digest the interaction, knowing that they know what all, like, they've seen your videos, they know everything about you, but this is the first time you actually meet the person in real life, so it's like a weird fame thing, but even more because it's sexual. Like, did you just get used to it, or over time, or it's still weird to you?
No, it's never been weird to me. I mean, this is what I did. I mean, first of all, when I started, there was no internet. So once
Mm,
the internet was in our
yeah,
face, we were like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. It's time to wrap your head around it and completely embrace it and accept it and understand it. It's built me a beautiful life, and I got to travel the world, fill a passport. There's so
mm,
many positive things that have come along with me being in the adult industry that I looked at it like, okay, now there's this and there's going to be these interactions. Okay, game on. This is what it's going to be like. I will
mm.
say New York City is the absolute best place for me because people are so fucking cool. And so when I'm walking down the street, every day, it's usually like, "Hey, Lisa, what's up? Hey, Lisa. Oh my gosh." But guys will be driving by and they're at a red light, like, "Oh my God, Lisa Ann, what's up?" They're very cool to know that I don't want to take photos in public places. I will
Mm.
take photos with my fans at events, at scheduled events and signings and all of these different things. But when it comes down to me living my life and running errands by foot, just like everybody else does in New York City, I don't want to be bothered because that's like my free
Right.
time. I would never bother somebody on their free time. So I don't really look at how the relationship was built. I just look at everybody as the same, right? This guy knows who I am. He enjoys me on whatever level he does. Hey, maybe he likes my fantasy sports and sports betting advice. We don't know that. We can't just put him into a category, but I'll say here they're cool. LA was tough for me because in LA, everybody is trying to get clout. Everybody wants something from you. And so you'll be sitting at a restaurant and everyone will just be staring at you, videoing you, taking photos of you. And I found that to be harder than somebody walking up to me and saying, hey, Lisa, what's up? I found that to be like, now I'm worried about how I'm chewing my food. Now I'm worried about my friends who aren't in the business getting on camera and worrying about their safety because maybe this guy's going to figure out who they are and can't find them. So the levels there was very different. I was a lot more isolated when I lived in LA. My friends kind of had to come to my house or I would come to their house. And each time I would try to go out and do something, it was usually just a fucking miserable experience. And in New York, I go to a lot of the same places where everybody knows me, whether it's restaurants, bars, places where I frequent. Everybody knows me and they'll be looking out for me. And if they see somebody approaching me, by the time they approach me, somebody else is coming up to me and my people and telling them like, oh, this guy's going to approach you, you know, be ready. But I just made it a pact when I moved here that I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do photos in public places. I'll say hello. I'll have a conversation. Hey, what's up? What's your name? Where are you going? You know, what do you do? You know a lot about me. Let me know something about you. So I'll make a moment, but I'm not just going to walk around and give photos out and start having people touching me and doing things everywhere I go. And so this has been a haven for me. It's also very easy to blend in New York City.
Yes.
You know, you can put on a hat and glasses and some baggy clothes and you can walk around all day. And during mask life, it was ideal. I was actually able to like make conversations with random people because nobody knew who I was. But you know, you just look at it like anything else. It's like any other kind of celebrity. People are going to know you from what you did. So you embrace that. And you treat them mindfully and respectfully, and they'll treat you the same.
Yeah, LA is a lot different. LA, I lived in LA, and yeah, oh man, so I'm from Florida. Obviously, I'm in Florida right now. I live in Florida, and my whole family's from New York. So I grew up with that like New York mentality, just from growing up, and then you know in the household. But I grew up here, but my whole like childhood dynamic was that northern New York, New Jersey, like type of living, right, which is much different than out in LA. And yeah, it's just I couldn't handle it. The people in LA, like, you know, there's definitely some cool people, but it's just the whole thing was all bullshit. It was fake. Everyone's talking to you because maybe you know a producer or you're someone, and then it's just I couldn't have like genuine interactions. Like
everybody's name dropping. Everybody's telling you everybody they know. I don't care. I don't care. You know?
Yeah. Well, everyone moves to LA for attention because they whether they didn't get it or they were the hot girl in high school or the hot guy in high school, and then they wanted to pursue that, and they didn't want to go the education route, so so that's. I understand like the psychology behind it, but yeah, I could only imagine like being like an adult film star in LA and then and you get the random dudes and you get the normal people that aren't in the industry that just live in LA that are just normal creepy dudes as well. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Well, so hold on, let me ask you this. Are you married or in a relationship?
I am not married. I am in a relationship. Yes.
Okay. So if a guy So I feel like you would appreciate this. If a random guy, not a creep, but a random guy saw you, whether he knew of your past or not, he just like, wow, that girl is just beautiful. Like she has like some type of energy that I just want to like go after her and like talk to her, not in a weird, creepy way, but just like in a normal, like shit that you see in the movies way, right? Obviously is not how it actually goes out and lays out. But if a guy was like, hey, listen, like, I don't care who you are. I don't know what you do, but you're beautiful. I want to take you out. And you're like running around. I feel like you would appreciate that if it's done the right way, if you were single.
Absolutely not.
No?
Absolutely not. See, a guy has to read a room, right? You have to observe what somebody is doing. If a woman is sitting in a bar by herself and she looks like she's interested in having conversation with different people, that's different. If a woman is out at a restaurant with her friends sitting at a table and she's engaged in conversation, that is not your time to penetrate that group. If a woman is out running her errands and she's carrying a grocery bag and she's obviously on the move to go somewhere, just because you think somebody's pretty doesn't mean you have to express that. Men seem to feel that they have carte blanche over the world to have more power than women. It's always been this way. And part of that power is exercised by them choosing us. I don't want to be chosen. I want to make choices. So I've always felt that that stalking predator, you're being watched, you're being just looked at, because you know the second you make eye contact with the guy and break the force field, he's coming over. Imagine being the pretty girl and that happening to you 100 times a day.
Right.
It's not just one guy that realizes it and feels it. And when men do make that approach, and normally the guys that will make this approach when I am engaged in a conversation with my girlfriends or in a situation. And I'll always ask him, like, psychologically, what fucking made you feel this was okay? Like, we're doing something. We're all in this. You broke the force field. You came in. Oh, well, I think you're so pretty. Okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that information? Do I look like I'm here to meet somebody? Am I putting it out there? Because when women want to meet people, they put it out there. They're looking around. They make eye contact. But it's the power of men believing that whatever sexual thought, or whenever they have a thought that a woman is pretty, because they are more powerful, that they should interrupt her because she's the weaker being. And that's really something that never has changed or evolved. And men will get offended. Well, I just want to tell you you're pretty. Okay, great. I always say, like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that information? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm blunt. That's why I belong here in New York. I'm blunt, but it is a thing. And you feel hunted everywhere you go as a pretty woman. You feel hunted. You feel every guy is staring and waiting because it's going to be his opportunity to express his words. Because again, he believes that he is the stronger being just by being born a male. And women have less rights just by being born a female. And if a woman puts on makeup and gets dressed to look nice, obviously she's only doing it to find a man. So in that old school male mentality, that's the appropriate gesture. To me, it's extremely offensive because I'm usually doing something. I'm not on dating apps. I'm not at a singles bar. I'm not sitting alone chatting up people. It's when you're doing something that this guy believes that, like, this is my chance. I'm going to go and tell her. And he's going to give me information that a stranger telling me I'm pretty means nothing to me. Obviously, I get this all day long on social media or through porn, through this. So it means nothing to me. It's the fact that he feels the power to take time out of my day for him to express his thoughts, which are really useless to me.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but there's a lot of guys that do the opposite, that are so scared of getting turned down that they don't talk to anyone, and then they're 45 years old and they're still single. I have a lot of friends like that they want to wait for the perfect time. They don't want to approach the girl because they don't want her to feel a certain type of way. If we go out to the bar, unless I make the approach or I know someone, like, they're not going to, like, penetrate a group for sure. They won't even talk to a girl by themselves. They're always looking for, like, an in, but they're not the type of person to actually, like, go for it, right? So I hear what you're saying, but just to play devil's...
dating apps for that. Like, they can go and meet a whole group of women that are single that are looking for somebody.
I hear what you're saying.
There's singles events. There's charity events. You can go alone and you can just start talking to regular people. There's so many ways that people can go out alone and talk to somebody who else is alone. But I mean, dating apps are the solution because you've got everything funneled into people that want to meet other people.
Right. Well, I guess I've seen this before where a girl was not about it and a guy was totally, like, he's like, no, I want to be with that girl. And she was totally not about it. And then a year later, she's obsessed with him and they're getting married. I've seen it turn.
Okay. Well, it would never turn with me, but if it could turn with other people, then I'm just the you got to shoot your shot girl, where every guy feels like he's got to shoot his shot. So it's
I feel like
just
most guys
exhausting.
are scared, though. Like, I feel like
no fear. No fear.
Oh, maybe not in New York, but
not in New York, but everywhere else.
Yeah, it might be different. Yeah, in Florida, I feel like the pretty girls. Like, I have a lot of girls that are pretty that I'm friends with, and I don't have a lot of girls. I'm not a pimp. I have a lot of, like, pretty girls that I'm friends with, and they'll say, "Yeah, I never get approached at the gym. I never get approached out. Maybe here and there by a drunk dude that is ballsy, but to be honest, like, if a guy approached me at the gym or out, I would definitely talk to them. And I've had that experience because I don't approach them as like, hey, I want to sleep with you. Like, I'm just friends with these people, right? And I've been here for a while, so I have a decent group of people that I'm friends with. And so, like, I'll talk to them about their personal issues, like, more as like a friend. Like, listen, I don't, you know what I mean? So they're open with me, and these women are open with me, and they tell me, like, yeah, like, you would think that every second I walk down the street, guys are chasing me down and and hounding me. But guys, to be honest, are scared, and I've seen it happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's a
Hopefully
fine
the
line,
guy
right?
that was scared doesn't approach me first, because then he's never going to want to walk up to somebody again. Because if they do penetrate my force field of my friends just you'll see it. They'll all just sit back, they'll grab their drink, and they'll be like, this fucking dude is toast, right? And I'll be like, so let me ask you a couple questions. Microphone,
That's
fake
awesome.
microphone. So like, at what point did you feel it was appropriate to interrupt our fucking dinner? And I put the microphone, like, I take it to every level to just scar everybody in the restaurant around me. I like to make a little bit of a scene of it, because I'm like, oh my God, you
you're a
chose
monster.
me. I am a monster.
Well, actually, so if you interrupt someone's dinner, that's crossing the line. I think
But that's
if you're with your
normal
friends,
to dudes. Dudes do that all the time.
I've never seen that happen where a group of girls and a random dude just comes up to the table. You have to be ballsy for. So I mean, I guess it happens more in New York because New Yorkers are different, but in Florida, that
would happen in LA all the time. A guy would just walk up and tap you on the shoulder. Hey, can I have a photo? Like, while you have food in your mouth on your fork, and you're like, do I stab the guy with the... But, I just think we all have to be mindful of our interactions, right? There's places that you can go. Like, I think sports bars are always a great place, right? Because it becomes more interaction with strangers, because one side's rooting for one team, one side's rooting for the other team. When it comes to dating, and I feel people are struggling with this more than ever coming out of this pandemic. Where do I go? How do I get back out there? What do I do? The number one thing I suggest to everyone is to get involved in a local charity event. It is the greatest equalizer. You meet incredible people, and though you might not meet somebody that initial day, you're going to get to go to other events through this charity event, and you're going to meet other people. And you know what? When somebody likes you and knows somebody that's awesome, maybe they're like, hey, I really want you to meet my friend. I think you guys would really get along. It's an old school way of meeting people, but it worked in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? People met through people. They met through friends through work. It was always like, oh, we worked together, or we met through a friend through work. But really being mindful about, is it the right thing to do to make an approach with somebody that A, might be out of your league, B, might be busy, or C, might not be in that mindset. But if somebody's at like a singles mixer, or, goes to a charity event by themselves, and I've gotten so many of my listeners from dudes to start doing charity events. And it's also, it's really helping their social skills, because they're getting out around all different ages of people. And through that, they're meeting people. And I'm thrilled that it's been something positive I've been able to share on Dudes Do Better.
Yeah, absolutely. What's crazy is I've seen guys so you said out of their league, and I used to think that you had to be Chris Hemsworth to get a hot girl, and you had to be this guy. That's why I worked out. I got working out the shoulders, or get the beard, try to be as masculine as possible, try to be as intellectual as possible, make as much money. You try to be this alpha male to attract the opposite sex. Like, there's no secret here. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to figure that shit out. But I've seen some doofy looking dudes pull really hot chicks because they had courage.
They also probably have a beautiful penis.
But how do you know about their penis?
There's a swagger. There's big dick energy. You know what I mean? You can see the swagger. You can tell when the doofy guy walks up. He speaks with a different swagger. I've got the decoder right in here, right in my heart, right in my being. I can call it. Like, it does happen. But sometimes, the goofy dude, what does a girl want? A girl wants a guy that's going to make her laugh. Now that women are more successful doing their own thing, being real earners out there, there's no longer this need where there was a time where women got married because they wanted a guy to take care of them. That's not the thing anymore. Women are taking care of themselves. So I think we are more open-minded about, hey, this guy isn't, as you said, Chris Hemsworth, but he really makes me laugh, and he's really easygoing, and he's great around his friends. Like, we like to see how guys are around their friends and how guys interact with other people than just us. We know they're going to be nice to us, but we like to see, how are they to the server at the restaurant? How are they, we like to really watch their lives.
But you still want to be, like, even if a girl makes $1 billion a year and the guy makes 40 grand, like, you still want to be with a guy that's attractive, and you still want a guy that it's not so much a money thing, like a specific number. Like, you have to be rich to support my life, but it's more of, I'm attracted to you because you have that determination, you have that motivation, you're not a fucking loser. I think that's the dynamic, and I think that's baked into our DNA of wanting that. Now, the world has changed, but humans haven't. Right? Like, we're the same humans
Right.
2,000 years ago. We haven't evolved at all, but the world has. So yes, women don't need men anymore for financial stability. Women don't need anything really because they have more opportunity now than they ever did. You go back 100 years ago, like women were fucked. You needed a guy, and then even certain guys were fucked. You needed to be born into a certain family,
Yeah.
right? So the dynamic and the dichotomy was completely different. However, women, even if women are rich, you still don't want to be with a fucking loser. You want to be with a guy that's motivated.
No.
You want to be with a guy that's not a fucking couch potato. And
Sure, you want somebody that gets up and does something every day, even if he
yes,
doesn't make great money doing it.
right.
Well, let's say he works for a community center and he doesn't make great money, but he is passionate about what he does and he's doing something great for the community. You would love that man.
Yes.
There's that. So it's
Well,
really
some women. I don't know. These Florida chicks are they're like, hey, do you have a boat?
that's so funny. Really? That's their thing? Because here,
I don't know
that's
how it
another
is in
thing
New
I like
York.
about New York is that like nobody can flex with their car because nobody really has a car.
Yeah.
Nobody really has a lot of stuff because we all live in apartments. And I love that feeling of like we're all kind of neutral, but that makes sense, right? Because in LA it was all about people's cars. Like dude would have a
Yes.
great car, but he had like 4 roommates in a 2-bedroom. You're like, okay, you probably should have got a bigger apartment before you got this car. So that's an
No,
interesting
Lisa,
flex,
the girls here are like it's Florida. Well, Tampa specifically, and Miami's like, yeah, horrible. But even Tampa's like a mini Miami. Florida is like LA without like the super fakeness, right? Like the desires are the exact same. You want to go to One Oak and you want to go to Bootsy Bella's and you want to show off, get the table, pull up in the Lambo, you're on the yacht. It's the same thing here. The only difference is that there's no like entertainment industry here. It's just
Sure.
rich. It's just rich people, the people that own businesses, right? So you don't have that weird fake like, can you do something for me? It's more of, are you rich? Because I want to hang out on
Right.
your boat on Sunday. So
Interesting.
it's a weird,
there's
it's an
always
interesting
that
dichotomy.
something, right? And I think like friendships are the most important things to build before people go out there and try and date because your friends are going to be there for you to walk you through things, whether they're single, whether they're in relationships, and through your friends, you meet other people. I think what I'm seeing through my studying, I'm actually studying incels right now. So I'm doing a project in the near future explaining to the world the life of an incel and
what
really,
is an incel for people that have no idea what you're talking about?
It's an involuntarily celibate man. In most cases, these involuntarily celibate men have been addicted to porn from the age of 10 or 11 years old. They've been linked to a large percentage of the mass shootings in the United States. They turn out to be incredibly violent over not seeing and getting the results that they want from life, and their addiction to porn, that early release of dopamine before they're old enough to manage it, gets them to a place where they're constantly looking for a greater rush. So that rush can be whether it's hurting animals, which is a lot of it, how some of it starts, hurting women. They also hate men that get women. But this is something that, finally there was an article released about, the shooter the other day, potentially being an incel. We know that Buffalo shooter, incel. This is a common thread, and it's something that the FBI released a statement this year in March of 2022 that incels are the greatest terror threat inside the United States. They all communicate with each other. They all have different platforms that not many of us know about, which I'm learning about now. There's so many chat platforms that they use, whether it be on the dark web or whether it just be a small application that one of them who's a coder has started. And there's, a couple thousand people in this, but they band together and they want to watch each other commit these crimes. And they want to be a part of the news. That is how they're going to get their fame. And the addiction porn part really destroys them at a young age because a lot of it comes in on gaming devices. So PS3, all these different gaming devices also run traffic with Pornhub, browsers, all these sites. So these kids see it come down. Their parents think they're they're playing games for hours a day, and really they're watching adult content. As they watch it as a young person, they continue to up the ante of what they're watching. So the scenes become more violent things. And then when they try to interact with girls in their school, they're incredibly awkward. So the girls sense that there's something weird about this guy. Then he gets this weird vibe. Then he feels he's being bullied. It becomes this whole thing. And usually between the ages of 26 and 35 is when they will act out. However it is, they want to carry on their legacy as being this person that nobody cared about.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, that's.
Did you know what an incel was?
No, I've heard it, but I didn't. I
It's
didn't look at.
fascinating to me how few people really. I mean, I read everything the FBI puts out just because I'm a very curious person. I read between 3 and 4 hours of news a day,
Wow.
but I'm always interested in what's happening. What's happening is even more people got addicted to porn during the pandemic, and a lot of these people that did get addicted are minors, and these minors don't really know how to process the information, and now they're kind of ruined for wanting to like just make out with a girl from their school or put her hand up her shirt. Like that's not going to do it for them. Many of them will admit when they're going through therapy because you're not in the United States allowed to interview anybody under 18 years old about porn, even though they'll admit they've been watching since 10. You have to wait till they're 18 to interview them. By 18, they're able to go into treatment facilities where they'll have blocks on the internet. They won't watch porn for a year. They'll be evaluating their psyche, what's changing with them, how are they evolving, and they start to grow again. It's very similar to sexual abuse. If you're abused at a young age, that really stunts your mental growth. You kind of stay stuck right there. These young people are getting stuck right there where they're getting addicted to this content. And then by the time they kind of push their way out, they'll even admit that they couldn't have an orgasm without watching a scene. They couldn't just be with a girl and have an orgasm because the levels that they feel have to be so sensationalized.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is different. I could only imagine, especially the guys that can't get girls, or for lack of a better word, are not attractive, and it's hard. Like, I'm, by all means, I'm not saying I'm fucking Prometheus, Thor guy when it comes to getting girls, right? But I've done decent in my life. I've had a fair share, but I've seen guys that literally get zero attention. The reason why I bring that up is because now that you are, you're a vet, I guess. I don't know how to really say it, but you're a vet. You've been around the world, right? When you see guys your age or older, I've seen this before, and this tends to be like a trend. Like if we were part of a social media company and we were coding, this would be the algorithm. Like the patterns of men that are like 40 plus, I would even say actually, you could probably go 35, maybe even 30, my age. I see a pattern of quote unquote non-attractive guys, whatever that means, right? Non-attractive guys build up resentment towards attractive women, and even if they're not going to be aggressive and they're not going to do anything dangerous, they have this resentment towards women because they feel like they never got what they deserved. Whether that's like a weird thing. Like nobody deserves anything.
And actually that's part of the description of an incel as well. There's resentment towards women because they can't get any, right? So
we've seen all those guys, though. We've seen those guys that they just have like the old man on my lawn towards hot girls and hot women. It's man. How do we fix that? If your genetics aren't good and you're maybe you can't talk to women, or you're scared, you don't have confidence, maybe you're ugly. Like, how do we fix that?
Well, there's so many great dating counselors online, right? And there's always something somebody can do, whether it's take better care of their health, be more physically fit, more physically active, because you can always balance it out. Okay, maybe you don't have the face of a supermodel, but you also don't want to be 250 pounds overweight. You also don't want to have, just this whole weirdness about you. So find out what things you can clean up. Find out what things you can have some drive towards that are going to make you feel more relatable to other people. But instead, they'll just sit in that anger, and that anger is energy. A lot of attraction is vibe. And that's why sometimes you see the hot girl with the total dorky guy, doofus, but he's lovely and his vibe is so good. He knows who he is. And so he knows what he brings to the table in the sense of who he is. He's not trying to get one over on his looks. So he's had to work more at his personality. Maybe he speaks multiple languages. Maybe he reads a lot. Maybe he's intelligent. I used to have this ongoing joke with guys on the road who would come up to me and they're like, I'm not hot. And hot girls aren't going to want to be with me. And I would say to them, like, just go to college and be a plastic surgeon. Like, you'll get a hot girl at the end of the day and you'll be around nothing but hot girls. Right. So like, I would joke with them about that. Like, excel at something else. Stop being so superficial and just looking at your exterior and find out where you can really be stronger than that super hot man that's standing right next to you, because you can be, because it's internal. And then that's a vibe. You know, we love intelligent men. There's nothing more attractive than a guy that speaks multiple languages. Like, there's a fascination for me behind a real wordsmith, somebody who's great with the English language, someone who's like a walking thesaurus. Like, I listen to some sports broadcasters and I listen to them and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't care what this guy looks like. His wordplay is like so unbelievable.
Right.
There are levels that you can still achieve for, but in the US, we definitely look more superficially, but that's really not that important. You could be an awkward looking dude, but have so much to bring to the table because you're highly intelligent. You're a great speaker. You know how to make a conversation. You have a great group of friends that the ladies are going to love you.
Yeah. So the only thing I would say to that is you are a mature, intelligent woman, like very intelligent, you have a very good vocabulary. You talk well. You're very, your thoughts are deep, right? You're not a shallow thinker. You probably know this, whether you know it or not, you are not the norm, right? Most women, especially the hotter they get, they're not thinking that deep, and they do have more of a superficial vibe going into it. So I know women for sure that the guy could be Stephen Hawkins. If you don't have money and you're not good looking, like they won't even give you the opportunity.
Okay,
right?
let me debate this. I have a women's group that I started here in New York. We're now up to 25 women. We get together at least once a month as a group. And I will say this about my group. We are all like-minded women. We're all deep thinkers and we're all the same. And there is not one superficial woman in the group that would choose a man for money over his personality. So I do believe it's the circles you're running in.
It's
and
the location too, though.
I'm the catalyst of this. Well, they're from everywhere. I've got one from Toronto who just recently moved to New York. I've got one from LA. Like, they're from everywhere. But it's about us being I'm the center of this, right? And it's about us being around like-minded people. I don't want to be around women that would only be with a guy because he has money. I want to be around motivated women who want to be around a man who's nice, because if we're all going to do group things together and they're going to bring their guy, we want him to be, part of us, right? So I think it's really how hard you're working at it. I'm 50 years old, so I'm the oldest in the group. And I think it's great to be the kind of leader of the pack and to be there to have these one-on-one break-offs. Like, I had one of the girls over the other night for dinner. I cooked us a beautiful homemade soup and salad. We sat on my patio and ate and talked, and she's 24. So she'll come to me with different things. And so I realize as a mentor that I'm able to express to her, like, hey, don't lean towards that. Don't be superficial. And if people like myself are out there having friendships with all different ages of people, we can really work to building a village of like-minded thinkers that can get out there and share that message to other people. I do see it. I understand there's a lot of superficial women out there. There's also men out there that are superficial in the sense that they only want to be with a hot girl, and then they're going to trade her in for another hot girl, and it's going to continue to go on. But I think we have to be in control of this, and we have to be spreading this message, and we have to be reminding people to give people a chance, not based on just what they look like or not based on just how much money they have. Think about that energy. And that's why I say sports bars, because like, I'm a huge sports fan, and I've gotten my younger girlfriends going to sports bars, and now they've got this whole group of guy friends that they're hanging out with. They're meeting up and they're watching games together, and now they're meeting guys. Now one of the girls is dating one of the guys' friends, and I'm like, look how organically that happened. In a matter of 3 months, you doubled your friend group. You now have this whole sports bar. You're all fighting over these games and having fun together, and now you're meeting people. And your common ground wasn't money, wasn't a fancy dinner. It wasn't any of those things. It was sports. And it was you talking about the Buffalo Bills and you fighting for Josh Allen. And that's, so it is possible. We just have to do a little bit more work, because just like anything else, it's easier to grab the shiny new thing, but you're going to get a better product when you put some time into it. When you show a guy that you're not superficial, and you show a guy that you want to give him attention because he's kind and because he spoke nicely to you, it goes a lot further. And then he goes back and tells his friends, like, oh my gosh, we don't have to be rich. We can just be nice. We just got to be nice to people. Like, it all spurts out, right? We all have to do the work.
I feel like a lot of women in Florida need to hear that, for sure.
Well, hopefully they'll listen to this episode.
We have a lot of Florida listeners, for sure. So yeah, I think the location dynamic, like people change, right? Like when people go to LA, they start acting like they're from LA. When people go to New York, they start to form like we're adaptive creatures. Um and yeah, I think it is a location thing. I think because you're such a veteran, you have so much knowledge and so much information that you can provide. Like for that 24-year-old female, for you to give them all that information, like fuck, like what a godsend you are. Because let's face it, when you're 24, guy, girl, zebra, doesn't matter. At that point of your life, like you don't know anything. And you've seen the sketch balls, you've seen horrible shit go down, and you've seen great stuff. And you know, like, what is good, what is bad, what to stay away from, what to double down on. And for a female to be 24 and have someone like you, like, that's incredible.
It's also, when you're 24, all your friends are 24 too. So you're kind of giving each other all this bad information, right? Everybody's giving you like that. No, don't do that with that guy because he's this. Everybody's like cackling, right? So she'll gather all of her data, then she'll come to me. And, I always want everything to be positive. I'm like, you never know when you're going to see somebody again. You never want to end anything on a negative note. You never want to say nasty things that you're going to regret on the way out the door. There's always a way to communicate. There's a great book called How to Have Difficult Conversations. And I recommend it to people because a lot of the conversations we have to have in life are difficult, but don't just ghost someone. Have a conversation with them on why this wasn't a good fit for you. You don't have to blame it on them. You don't have to make them feel bad about themselves. But by ghosting them, you're scarring them for the next girl they're going to date that they're going to be worried she's going to ghost them too. So like we've got to break the ghosting habit as well because the guy never gets to have that closure, never gets to have a conversation. And maybe it was just her travel schedule that got too busy. But if she's just going to ghost him, he's going to take it upon himself to think it was him, something he did wrong. So I'm a big force the communication, have the difficult conversation, but never say unnecessary shit. Even if there was something that really irked you, maybe it's just a you thing. Maybe it wouldn't irk the next girl. You don't need to scar a dude on the way out. Dudes, you don't need to scar a girl on the way out. I was married once in my 20s. My ex-husband actually lives in Florida. We talk every year on our wedding anniversary and birthdays. We were together for 7 years. We were just young. He's my first boyfriend. I kind of forced the marriage because I thought we had to get married. We both were very different, but we didn't. Right. We had a very basic understanding that we weren't going to shit talk each other on the way out. We were never going to be nasty to each other. I shared 7 years of my life with him. We traveled all over together. So why would I want to kick dirt on the way out? It just didn't work. We both could move on with our lives and do our own thing. And so I've never had a dramatic breakup with somebody that I never talked to again. I'm friends with everybody I've ever dated because we did share moments together that were good. Just because it didn't last doesn't mean they need to be dead to us. And I think that's hurting people in the dating world too, is how it ends. End with grace. Always end it with grace.
Yeah. To try to tell a young person in their 20s, especially people that are in the scene, quote unquote, young people just don't care. You don't have that insight in, it makes sense because your brain's not fully developed. Like women 25, men 27. It makes complete sense that you're going to make irrational, uneducated decisions. So it is hard because you understand that, yes, you might not be even qualified to treat this relationship and that might scar that person forever. But getting a girl or a guy at that age to really be like, let's do the right thing and break this off instead of completely ghosting the fucker, then yeah, I feel like most people don't care at that age. It's not until you're much older. So you need people like you to be in the inner circle. That's why you're so valuable to those type of women.
Everybody's been ghosted. So, when I will say, like, how did it feel when you were ghosted? Oh my gosh, it was awful. I waited for a couple of weeks for this guy to call me. Okay, so why would you want to do that to somebody else? We don't want to do bad things to people that we didn't like happen to us. Put yourself in those shoes at all times. And tell you what, I just turned 50. You wished me a happy birthday before you came on live. I'll say the greatest thing about—
Crazy, by the way, that side note that she is 50. Like, there's no way.
I've taken good care of myself for a long time. And when she was here the other night, she's like, I need to look through your medicine cabinet. I'm like, okay, well, there's 3 and you can look at all the products because I use everything because there's everything in here. She was like going in my fridge. I have a bunch of facial products in my fridge too. Masks I like to keep cold. She's like, you use all of this. I'm like, yes. And that's why I look the way I do. But, when you think about getting older, the greatest thing about turning 50 for me was how I've moved through life. And I was guided by a woman who was my neighbor as a kid. She lived to be 102 years old. She never had her own kids. And she was like my mom, my dad, my best friend, my grandmother, my everything to me. And she was so kind. Never had a bad thing to say about anybody. Always took the high road, just like lived her life this way. And she had such an impact on me for the 43 years I got to have her in my life, 42 years. So through her, I want to carry that on. Like every day of my life is like, Peggy would do this way. Peggy would do this way. I want to remind people that now I can run into an ex and it's cool. I can run into people here and there. I can, even people who have wronged me, I still talk to, because it is what it is. That happened. It's water under the bridge now. We're not getting back together. But if I see you somewhere, we're going to say hello. I'm going to catch up with you. How's your family? How are your friends? You know, I can move through life anywhere, and I'm not looking over my shoulder for some random ex that I ghosted that is going to come up to me like, why did you ghost me? So think about that. Think about not looking over your shoulder, feeling like the world is truly your living room. We should all feel like the world we step outside to every day is our living room, that we're comfortable here, that we're safe here, that we love it here. And the only way to achieve that is to just exude kindness and be mindful about the feelings of others as much as you'd like them to be as yours. They're not going to be, but you can always go ahead and be overly mindful and kind, even if you don't get it in response, because it pays you back later, because the people that you meet are in your life forever. Your friendships just build and build and build, and people see you're not petty. You're not catty. You're not mean. You don't kick dirt on your way out the door. And all that makes life a better life to live.
Yeah, it takes a special person to really think about that. Maybe a lot of psychedelics to really sit down and think. Take a lot of psilocybin to really think like third party 360 point of view, because most people live in this little bubble. When I talk to scientists and I ask them, you know, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? Like, what's the whole point? They give me their answer, and I'll ask you at the end, but they give me their answer, and I kind of give them this example of, you know, we live in this little ant hill, like that's Earth. And when I view an ant, I look down, and obviously I have this whole world. I'm a Homo sapien. I see the Earth as a human, right? But I'm looking down at this ant, and this ant is interacting with this ant. This ant's trying to get the food, and the queen ant needs to get paid, and everyone's running around. And that's kind of like what New York City is, and Florida is, and the world is, right? In the grand scheme of things of like the universe, right? So I tell people, well, here's my version of like, why are we here? Is I really don't know. And I don't think that we have enough neurons in our brain to understand why we're here, right? We are this little tiny thing in the grand scheme of things. And just like an ant will never understand human tendencies, they don't understand why we need food, they don't understand having sex, they don't understand getting a new job, they don't understand taxes, they don't understand, you know, financial gains and stocks dropping, Wall Street. No, they don't understand that. It's literally impossible for an ant to understand that. I think as humans, that's how we are. And the reason why I bring that up now is most people think like an ant. They think about in the moment, what's going on in their life. They don't think about that 360 view. And it takes someone very special or someone that does a high potency of psilocybin to really think like that 360 out of world, third party, third person vision. And yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for someone that doesn't have a fully developed brain, that's young and is in the scene and, you know, wants to be cool, you have all these hormones and you're at this specific age, having someone like you in their life, or even if they don't know you, they never met you, they never will meet you, at least listen to your podcast and understand and kind of use you as like a virtual mentor, even if they never even talk to you, right? I think that's very important for people to have mentors, because
Agreed.
life is not an anthill.
No. And you know, that ant analogy, I didn't know where you were going with that, man, but you really took me there, Justin. I was like, okay. Do you think the ant analogy has gotten even more intense since the pandemic? Now, it's different for you in Florida because you opened a lot quicker than other states. We were closed for 15 months.
Nothing really changed here. So I've always worked, at home.
Okay.
I've always had businesses that operate. I never like went to an office. All my businesses, I have medical business, and then I have other businesses. So they're all operating like right now. They're operating in different things. Like I'm a very systematic person, and that's kind of how I structured my life. So for me, being on the computer at at my condo, like no, that
But
didn't change
for
for
other
me.
people, because you look at
Maybe, yeah.
trauma, okay? The pandemic was traumatic. And we read a lot about PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, but we don't
Right.
read as much about post traumatic stress success. There are people that come out of very
Mm,
traumatic situations and become incredibly successful. Whether it's LeBron James, who grew up with absolutely nothing and worked his way to be what we know him to be today. We see it a lot
yes.
with athletes because we get to hear their story the night of the draft or we read their autobiographies. But when I was looking at what we were going to do in this pandemic, I had a lot of time with friends, a lot of time on FaceTime, a lot of just conversations. And I realized like we're going to divide into 50. Like 50% of the world is going to come out of this better than ever. And then 50% of the world is going to really struggle when we come out of this. And we saw this when sporting events first happened. Players were trying to, fans were attacking players and trying to run onto the court. Like people just got wild. Like fucking reckless on all level, like no care in the world for anybody other than themselves. People were teetering on buying, just becoming just narcissistic, very selfish. They went all in because they were their own. Now, these are also people that maybe didn't have a strong friend group to stay connected with during the pandemic. But I wonder, not for you, but for other people, that
Right.
ant analogy is so good because it's true. It's people don't realize the impact that they have on this world while they're here. When you ask, what is the meaning of life or what is the purpose of life? It's a feeling, right? We're all going to die, but when we leave, it's just our body that leaves. The memory of us is still here. The feeling that people will feel when they think about you is still here. So your impact is so important. And I think maybe it's because people aren't realizing their legacy or thinking about their legacy or their impact, or how do you want people to think about you? How do you want people to write your eulogy? What would you like people to say about you, for your eulogy? I mean, I read that in a book when I was really young. It opened with, what do you want people to say about you, your eulogy? And I was like, holy shit, that's brilliant. And at my birthday, the night of my birthday, I had a private room for my girlfriends so we could just be comfortable and just be on our own. And everyone spoke about me. And I said, I don't want it to sound creepy, but like, if this was my eulogy, I'd be fucking stoked because they all had something so beautiful and brilliant. They showed me how they see me. But that is, to me, the purpose of our life here is to be a feeling and to be a comfort to those around us, to be an inspiration to people who maybe know us or watch from afar, to be a positive impact, to leave something behind that is greater than, like, I hope that my legacy is more than porn. I don't know if my legacy will be more than porn. A large part of the world, there's new feverish masturbator being born every day. It's like new kid finds me. He doesn't know that was, years ago.
So I didn't know. So side note, I didn't even know that you were. When I reached out to you originally, I didn't even know that you were a porn star.
That's
or
fantastic.
I had no idea.
That's fantastic. Large percentage of my life was doing that.
Well, I knew after because I was looking you up and I was researching you, and then I was like, "What American porn star or whatever?" I was like, "Really?" And
Nail and Palin.
But I watched your clips of you like talking and stuff, and then obviously I saw your profile. Obviously you have a good following, so obviously that's going to draw me to get high profile guests. But I had no idea. And I feel like I've seen you before, but it was kind of like one of those maybe I don't know if I'm creating a memory or.
You probably saw the Who's Nail and Palin series from Hustler because that was all over the news. That was such a big series. I had bangs then. I changed my look a bit by just, getting a breast reduction when I retired, getting rid of my bangs so that my porn life could be BB, which is before bangs, and the rest of my life is AB after bangs.
You had bangs when you were younger?
I had bangs for years in the industry across my face this way. It was just,
oh really?
They just.
I don't I was like, I'm not a bang.
I was like, I need to change something as soon as I retire, and it's going to be smaller boobs, and I'm going to ditch the bangs. Like it's just such a silly thing, but it worked because some guys can't recognize me without the bangs. But the meaning of life can be a scientific. I'm going to have to go back and listen to some of the scientists' answers. It's amazing to me. But really, our relationships are our currency, right?
They're all different.
Everyone believes that currency is currency. Everyone believes that wealth is your status in this world, but it's not. The only real currency we have are our relationships, like how people feel about you, how you feel about them, what your world is like when you're not earning money. That's when your life begins, when you have free time. If you go to Italy, they never talk about what they do for work. As a matter of fact, they don't give a fuck about work. They work, they make their money, but their life starts when they're done working, and they're going to have a great dinner with their friends. They're going to sit out and smoke cigarettes and drink wine all night long, and it's going to be amazing. And then the next day they'll think about work again. We are a work-driven society here. We are consumerism to its finest, biggest peak. And that's where we want everybody to think like the more stuff you have, the more powerful you have. No, the more friendships you have and the more people in passing that say, oh, I have a lot of friends that'll say like, oh, I posted you on my IG and so reached out to me from this town where you feature dance and they met you and they said you were super cool and da-da-da-da. Like, that's really the grow of it is, what are people saying about you? How do people feel about it? What is your feeling? So to me, my purpose of life is truly a feeling. What am I doing for the people in my life?
It's so that part for sure, you feel that, right? The legacy part is hard because we're ants. How do we feel good right now? And it's kind of like having investments, like, oh, buy a bunch of Bitcoin. Well, when do I sell it? Well, you never sell it. Well, how does that help my life? Well, no, you give it to the next generation. Well, what? That doesn't make it. So I'm going to give the money I could spend to live a good life and just buy shit.
Something else.
Just buy shit and then die with it. That makes no fucking sense. So it's so hard for us to see after death because we want to be alive so much. I'll
tell you what'll change that for you. Do you have a will?
No.
Well, you have businesses, so you should have a will because you would want those businesses to properly be managed by who you would want them to be managed by, or at least whether it's family or what have you.
If I don't manage, Lisa, I'm just going to stop you right there, Lisa. If I'm not controlling the operation, everything burns to the ground.
Well, there could be somebody that wants some of the residual income that still does come in. It's the proper person, not the state.
You know how this is. You're a businesswoman. You know how this is. If Lisa Ann's not touching it, everything gets fucked up. This person doesn't show up. This person's not doing the right thing. This one forgot this. This one forgot that. It's yeah.
So during the pandemic, I went full in. I was like, I committed 3-4 months to putting my will together. It was like the most joyous experience. And I just don't understand why we don't focus on our last party like it should be. Like, this is our last hurrah. How do you want to say goodbye to your people? Do you want your people to be stressed and have to go into your house and get rid of all of your belongings? Or do you just want to have that handled? Like, do you want to set things up so that your family, your friends, whoever your people are, don't have the struggle of like, I don't know what he or she would have wanted me to do with this one item. I'm so stressed about it. That is a lot of pressure to put on others. Also, if you're like me and you're an author, you're still going to have residual income coming in. Where do you want that income to go? I want that income to go to charity. So I wanted to set up a trust. I'll send you a copy after this interview.
Yep.
I'll send you this copy. But so I got really into it. And I think you're right. Most people don't plan that far in advance and don't see that far. But when you start living your life as a feeling, then you start to worry about the stress of a feeling that you could cause somebody else by not being prepared to handle your shit. And that's where like the deep, like I'm getting cremated and I'm getting all of my ashes crushed down into diamonds so they can make, gemstones now out of ash. So I'll have a dozen of those. That's what you're going to do? Yes. My closest girlfriends.
If you die before me, I'm coming to your funeral.
Yeah, my closest girlfriends will all get a gemstone. This way nobody has to manage and earn. Nobody has to be like dealing with ashes or dividing up ashes. No, that's done. That's going to be paid for. That's set. I dialed it all in. My belongings be donated. The things that are valuable to you that you collect to give to specific people for specific reasons.
Right.
You can write letters and have them already in a vault so that when you pass away, these letters can be printed and shared with the people that mattered most to you. I got into it.
But you're so different. But you're different
experience.
Though. Well, Lisa, come on, Lisa. Come on, cut the shit. You're different. No one's thinking about this shit. People are thinking about, when can I buy that fucking Ferrari because I want to nail that hot chick and buy a bunch of caviar. No pun
Whenever I
intended.
see a car like that, I always think, oh, he must have such a small penis. Because, like, why else would he spend that much on a car that's going to get hit in a narrow shopping center at a Publix in Florida? Because the old lady's going to open a huge caddy door.
Yeah. I don't have a Ferrari, but eventually I do want to have one, but not to get women, because I actually do like I like engineering. I like watches too. I like mechanical stuff, right? So I would have it because I'm more of a gearhead, but yeah. Yeah, it's like the guy that has a giant lifted truck that has a small penis.
So you feel I'm like, am I one of one, Justin? Am I like one of one? Am I that unique?
If you were an NFT, you'd be one of one. You're quite rare.
I hope that the impact I have on my friends is to also be one of one.
I think people that are around you in your inner circle, you are going to have a drastic, hard dinosaur fucking foot impact on their life, because you are a rare breed. And forget about the porn shit. Like, most people, they'll see, if they watch your porn, or they know, even if they don't watch your porn, they just know you're a porn star, they're going to think you're dumb. Like, automatically, like, this chick is a porn star. She's like sucking off 25 dudes in a video, right? Like,
she's an idiot.
But you're to be honest, like, you're more insightful than some of these scientists that I talk about or talk to, and then we talk about science. So, not to like gas you up or anything, but it always goes back to, I tell my friends, I tell my guy friends, I tell my girlfriends, be optimistic. Your natural reaction is to jump the gun and make an assumption, whether that's a business deal, whether that's a person, whether that's a female or guy romantic relationship. You're always going to be like, oh, yes, but this and that. Like the yes, but guys, hate those guys. But what I've learned getting older and talking to people like you and experts in their field, in various fields, is that life is so much more complex than you think, especially if anyone's studied psychology. There's so much more to why someone makes a decision. There's so many different variables that are moving in this like bowl of soup that we call life, that yes, people do things, whether it's bad, whether it's good, generous, whatever. But there's so much that goes into it. And people just make assumptions because it's easy. And
it's lazy. It's lazy.
Right. And most people care about their own life. They care about their own time. They care about everything that they do. And it's kind of what I talked about before, is don't be an ant. Don't try. You are an ant, but try to be like a smart ant. Try to be the Elon Musk of fucking ants, because you don't want to make an assumption.
Be Elon Musk of ants.
Yeah, right. Shout out to those ants. But that's kind of like my point, is like, if someone were to view you on the internet or Google you, they're like, this chick, like, whatever. Like, how smart can she be? She did porn. She did this. She did that. But if they listen to your podcast and they didn't know that you did that, they just listened to your podcast and you never talked about porn, then I think people would be like, is this chick like a doctor? Is she an intellectual? Is she a professor? So yeah, my whole point of saying that is, when you're looking at a situation or when you're looking at somebody, don't jump the gun in life. And you don't do that, because all of your answers are very, very deep and well thought out. Most people have a reaction. So that's how I view life.
I appreciate that. And I agree. And I'll say, one of the greatest things being a porn star did for me was weed through people instantaneously. So when I'm meeting a group of new people, I can tell right away where somebody's head's at. You know, if somebody's judging me, their head's cocked a little bit, they're kind of condescendingly listening to me. I'm very good at reading body language. Like, I could be a fortune teller, because what do fortune tellers do? They read body language. They are so in tune with body language that when they flip a card.
How's my body language? Am I good?
Amazing. But when they flip a card, it's not really the card they look at. If you stare at them, like, you ever witness one of your friends getting their cards read? That reader is more looking at the person than the card when the card first goes down, because they want to see their reaction to the card. So from me, I've been able to weed through people faster. And the people that have stayed, that didn't give me that look, that didn't have a condescending approach, I automatically was able to bond with. It weeded through people in my life. Like, you know, because maybe 1 out of every 1,000 people can have a conversation with me without me sensing anything weird, anything just they can't get past that. And look, I'm not judging anybody who watches adult content. I get it. But for some people, if that was their first impression of me and then I'm in front of them talking, they can't process any more data than that. And it's not a slight against them. I just know where their head is at as we're speaking. I can see the data going in is not soaking in. They're just waiting maybe to ask me something stupid. So what I've realized from these friendships that I've built, and I have groups of friends in California, like when I did my birthday, I traveled everywhere so I could see little cells of my friends everywhere. And watching them meet each other is always awesome because I can see my like-minded people meeting other like-minded people and them all staying in touch. They were the select group that just approached me in a very open-minded way. It wasn't about what I did for a living. It was about who I was. Maybe they were curious. They wanted to engage in conversation, but the senses, like the sixth sense I've gotten from this business to protect my own safety has also been a great sixth sense in growing my social world. Cause I can tell right away, like, nope, this person thinks I'm a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? This person is looking at me like,
but no one can actually think about that.
I picture a dick in her ass right now. I picture a dick in her mouth right now. Like I can see it happening in their head.
But maybe initially, right? To give people benefit of the doubt, maybe initially, but if they talk to you for 10 minutes, whether it's in person or over the internet, like we're talking, they can't, there's no way that they can keep thinking that unless they're like super horny dudes, like chronic masturbators. There's no way that someone could talk to you for that long and just think about that the whole time.
But the problem is I don't give them the 10 minutes. When I sense that is normally when I break away. So it's it's my way to decode because I don't want to waste the 10 minutes because there's somebody there that's awesome, that's curious that I want to learn about. They want to learn about me. And so I move on because I could just tell. And it's so obvious. Even my friends who have been in my life for a long time, they now see it secondhand. Like I explain to them, this is the body language you should look for. This is the approach you should look for. This is the eye contact. And they'll be like, yeah, that was a total creeper. He was trying to be nice, but he just couldn't pull it together. And I'm like, yeah, I can sense that from the approach. So it's simple, but it's made me find the right people because super smart people don't judge people. They don't judge you for what you've done. They don't judge you
the smartest people I know, they view themselves as dumb, and the dumbest people I know view themselves as smart. I don't know anything. I was looking at this piece of machinery, and I was looking at all the gears working, and then I realized like 10 years or 100 years ago, they had the same machine. So I would look up these old time people in 1910 with the same exact machine. They didn't have any YouTube. They didn't have anything. And I'm like, the human race is so fascinating. Like it's so amazing to see like what we were able to do. And I think like, how did they even figure that out? Like obviously now people go to school and you have a blueprint and
or you go to YouTube.
Or you go to YouTube, right? It's like, how the fuck do these people figure this shit out? And like humans are amazing. If you like in a plane and you're looking down at a city, it's like looking at an anthill. You're like,
I know.
Humans created this. It's so bizarre. And the more you think about it, the more you get freaked out. But I know we're running short on time. I do want to ask you one or two questions. We already talked about how do you view the meaning of life? So I'll ask you another one. What was something that you realized today, or it could be somewhat recent, that you wish you would have known when you were 25?
I'll say money. I will say at 25, I was making money, but I wasn't as financially responsible as I am today. So I think money is something
how we do.
Yeah, money comes and goes when you're young, and then you start, telling, you realize how much more you would have if you were better. So I would say definitely money.
Money, okay, yeah, I definitely want to do part 2 with you because I want to ask you, like how. I want to ask you more about your past and not so much like the sex part, but like just kind of like the logistics part.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
I will mail you a copy of this book, my new book, The Life Back, that all your viewers and listeners can get either on Amazon or through my store, shoplisaann.com. I will get you this book. You read it and write notes because this book, it says a lot. And we'll do the follow-up on your show here.
and take pictures of it
Book
and send it to
report
you.
is due, and I will know if you read it by our conversation.
I will
Let's
read
do
the.
a-
I'll read.
Let's
the
do a
thing,
follow
right?
up for sure. It was a pleasure sitting with you today, Justin. I appreciate you reaching out to me. Completely
Yeah,
flattered that you
course.
were impressed by my communication skills versus not knowing of my previous life. So that's always super cool for me. It's super flattering to know that I have a new draw, that I'm bringing in a new audience of listeners and people who are interested in learning more about me. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, like you're definitely like beautiful, and like at the age of 50, it's like Jesus Christ, are you drinking vampire blood? What the hell is this chick doing? But like you're a great speaker, you're a great talker. You know, your conversations are good. Like I could talk to you for 45 hours straight. You know, some people like I can't say that.
Right.
Some people are a little dry. They're a little dry biscuits. The last question I do want to ask you though is, what was something that you were wrong about recently? I feel like it's beautiful when there's humbling and humility. I feel like that's a beautiful thing that humans push away, and especially like go-getters and alphas like us. We try to steer away from things that we were wrong, and it hurts because obviously nobody wants to be wrong. But
I mean, there's a lot of little petty things. Like I decided to redo my store for my book after my book was already out, when I had like 6 months that shit was in editing and in printing and all these delays for COVID. Like, why did I wait till the week it was released to be like, you know what? I don't like my store anymore. I should redo this whole Shopify store. Like little things. Sometimes I can procrastinate. So there's like those little things. I will have to dig deep to really think about that because, yeah, I mean, that was like, why did I do that?
well, how about this? Think about it, and then you can get back to me, and we'll do it on the part 2. All right?
Will do. It was great talking to you today. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, guys. All right, you heard it here, folks. From Lisa to Justin, this is the Justin Caviar Show, and we're out. Bye, bye, y'all.